How's everybody doing tonight? First of all, let me thank everybody for coming. My name is Glenn Chalder. I'm with a company called Planometrics, and we've been asked to work with the town to help the town prepare what's called a master plan for the community. So we wanted to involve as many residents as we could tonight in this meeting to get your thoughts and ideas about the community and things that the community can and should be focusing on over the next 10 or 20 years. And that's really what this effort is all about. So to start off tonight, I've put together a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to walk through and explain to you some of the overarching issues that we're kind of grappling with as part of a planning process, just to kind of set the stage for a discussion that we're going to be having a little bit later. So if everybody will sit tight for a little bit, I know that PowerPoints are often used, but just bear with me for a minute, and I'll walk you through this. So first of all, I'm going to give you an overview of what is a master plan. We're going to talk a little bit about why a community would prepare a master plan. I appreciate everybody's patience working through the exercises that are out in the hallway tonight, and we're going to talk about why we did those exercises and what we're learning from those. We're going to have an open discussion about some of the results of the exercises, and my pledge to you right now is that we're going to shoot to adjourn the meeting at 8:30 by this clock up here on the wall. If we get to 8:30 and people would like to continue the meeting, I'll probably ask for a show of hands or whatever. But basically, again, we pledged that the meeting would be 6:30 to 8:30, and that's what we're shooting for tonight. So first of all, the main thing I would want you to understand is that a master plan is an advisory document for looking at the future of a community. Just as each of us would prepare a plan for what we want to get accomplished this day or this week or month or year, a community can and really should do the same type of thing. And in this situation, a community's outlook is not a day, a week, or a month, but it could be a decade or several decades. What type of community do we want to try to build? So the plan is visionary in its outlook. What types of things can or should we be doing? It does take a long-term view, and it cares about the physical, social, and economic development of the community, because all of these things work together to make a successful community. And it really is, what type of community do we want to be in the future? Any idea what these are? Somebody said rodents. Okay, they are rodents, I think, technically, but does anybody know what the real name is? Meerkats. Do you know why meerkats are on this slide? They are cute. That's a good answer. But the reason that meerkats are on this slide is actually very interesting. Their dynamic as a community is twofold. While most of the population is foraging around for food and going about their daily business, what are these guys doing? They're standing up on their hind legs and they're looking out on the horizon for threats to the community. So in many respects, what we're doing here, the committee that's working on the master plan update, is a little bit like being meerkats for the community. Most people get so focused on their daily lives and the things that they can and should be doing for themselves, the question is, who looks out for the community? So in a sense, we're going to try to be the meerkats here and look out over the horizon for the things that are going to affect us in the future. And now this slide is kind of an interesting one because communities regularly prepare master plans. And if we go back to the left-hand side here, in 1975, Oxford prepared a master plan document which was comprehensive in terms of looking at the community. They updated the plan in 1984, looking out for the next 5 years. But then there was a long period of time. Nothing really happened in terms of a comprehensive plan for the community. And then there were some individual elements that were updated in terms of open space, transportation, and the heritage resource issue. So realistically, as we look back in the community historically over time, it's been 30 to 40 years since Oxford really created a comprehensive master plan for the community. And if any of us did that in our lives, where we let something go by for 30 or 40 years, there might be some opportunities and things that have been missed. So this is starting to give you a sense of some of the things that have changed over the last 30 or 40 years. You start thinking back to the movies at the time, or who was president, or the biggest TV shows. Anybody know what this one is? I'm not playing Trivial Pursuit with you guys. But the issue here and again is that times change, and the things that we thought were important 30 or 40 years ago, it turns out with the passage of time, maybe not so much. So our purpose right now is to bring the plan up to date, to look at the issues that are affecting Oxford today and are likely to affect them over the next 10 years or so. So the reasons for doing this, first of all, is to better understand where we are as a community. We're collecting data and information, and tonight's meeting is actually part of an exercise to get input from you as to what you think is important for the community overall. So where are we today as a community? How did we get here? What are the conditions and trends that are affecting us, and what do we think is important for the future? And really what we want to know, again, is where we are as a community today. The next thing we're going to look at is where we're heading as a community. Just as when you're driving in a car, you have momentum, and you continue in a direction until you change the wheel. As a community, given the policies and procedures that we have in place today, we're doing the same thing. We're headed in a direction as a community, and the question in a sense is that the direction that we want to go in? Or in fact, is there a different direction that we think is important for us? Are there choices that we should be making today? Because if we know where we want to be headed, but we're not headed there today, then maybe we need to stop what we're doing today and start doing new things. And that's really what the planning process is all about, is to start off with where we are today, where we're going, and decide where we want to be going as a community overall. We want to evaluate current strategies. We want to try to pursue and encourage positive outcomes and avoid negative outcomes for the community, and that's what we're going to be working on. Now, we anticipate that the master plan as it's prepared is going to have 5 key parts to it. The first part we just talked about, which is where we are as a community, sociologically, physically, etc. The second part of the plan is going to identify things which are important to you in the community, things that you might want to protect. These can include things like natural resources or open space or historic resources or historic character of the community. Community character, things that brought you to Oxford and made you decide that you wanted to live here. What are those things that we should try to preserve and protect in the future? And so that's the first major thematic element of the plan. The second thematic element is really how we might want to guide growth or change in the community in the future. Every year that goes by, new things happen in Oxford. New development occurs. People move in, people move out. The character of the community changes. And how can or should we guide this growth overall, both in terms of, for example, residential development or business or economic development or would be guiding growth and change in the community? The third thematic element of the plan is services and facilities. What types of services and facilities do we want or need as a community in the future? What about community facilities? What about our transportation network or sidewalks or trails, water and sewer utilities? Do we have what we need or want, or can or should we be changing these types of things in the future? And when those 3 things are looked at, and when they're balanced, because every community finds its own balance is what's important, that in essence provides the foundation for the master plan. Where those 3 circles intersect and that balance is found for Oxford, that becomes the foundation for our master plan in the future. Now the 5th part of the planning process is implementation. After we've put a plan together, that's not enough. What we actually have to do is then take the next step to bring this into fruition. So I want to review some of the exercises with you tonight in terms of the results. I put it over here, so hopefully it's in the sun, or not the sun, the light. But I realize it's pretty far away for you guys. Can you see the blue dots on the map? No is a good answer. So I apologize for that. I think what we'll try to do is get better shots for the TV later. But the whole purpose of putting the blue dots on the map is to learn one important thing. Oh. It's supposed to be secret. So I'm looking at this map, and what I can see on the map is the distribution of blue dots, which comes from really all different parts of Oxford. And why I think that's important and why I'm so happy that we got that sort of distribution is it tells me that the types of issues we talk about tonight and the types of things we learn here tonight are going to represent the thoughts or feelings from people from all parts of the community. If we had a tremendous concentration of dots in one place or one area, I might be concerned that there was going to be a little bias or whatever in the room tonight, and because this distribution comes from all parts of the community, I don't feel that that's going to be the case. Hopefully this one's going to be a little bit easier to see. So this is the distribution of Prouds. Can you see the green dots better than the blue ones? So clearly there's a concentration of green dots in different areas on that map. Anybody have any ideas about what those concentrations or distributions represent? You're going to have to yell it out, otherwise I can't hear.
Center of town.
Center of town, good. What else? Good. Schools, businesses, center of town, anything else? I heard recreation. There was another one over here, I'm sorry. Hodges, thank you very much. So we asked you to write down on the cards the things that made you proud, and we asked you to do that for a very specific reason. Whoops. I'll get it. If we ask people as part of a planning process, what types of things should Oxford be planning for, most people aren't really sure how to answer that question. People tend to clam up and say, I'm not sure. You're the planner. You tell us what you think we should be doing as a community. It's been my experience over the years, though, that when you ask people, what makes you proud of your community? People start to light up. And they start thinking about the things in the community that enhance their quality of life, make their experience of living in the community more enjoyable. When people come to visit, these are the things they want to show people. So if part of our planning effort is we can identify the things that people feel make their community a better place, these are things that we can try to encourage in the community in the future and devise policies to protect or enhance these as we go forward. So Prouds were an opportunity for you to share some of your thoughts about what resonates for you in Oxford today. And that's why that exercise is important. So we appreciate it, and what you wrote on the cards is very important. If there's anybody who did not turn in their card, there is a box outside. Before you leave tonight, if you'd give us that box, we'd appreciate it. Now the opposite side of Prouds is, of course, Saris. So this is the map with the distribution of Saris. So what can you tell me about what this represents? So I'm hearing a lot of laughs in the background, but center of town, some of the same things that were Prouds. Schools, yeah. Thank you.
Arizona.
Since I don't know how to spell that one.
I didn't say it.
Oh, good. See, that's the challenge you have sitting down front. You get blamed for everybody behind you in terms of what they say. So Saris are a little bit different than Prouds. It's been my experience over the years, when you ask people for Prouds, you tend to get sort of bigger picture things that people really get excited about. On the other hand, Saris are a little bit different. What happens with Saris is people think of the things that are irritations, things that bother them every time they drive by, or say, why doesn't somebody do something about that? These are the things that actually detract from a community, sometimes in little ways, but if we can take care of some of the little things, we can also start to take care of the big things. And if we can get rid of irritations and make things better, we can make our community a better place. So it's been my experience over the year that Saris tend to be things the community wants to try to discourage in the future. And that's also important advice for us. We can encourage the things that we want, discourage the things we don't want. It'll help us significantly. Now, the fourth exercise was the planning points. There's a little bottleneck here at the end. I apologize for that. What's interesting about this exercise is it creates a conundrum. And the conundrum is there's 12 boxes representing the different topics which are typically included in a plan, but you only had 5 bills, and they had different denominations. So the question for you, in a sense, was how do I distribute my planning points on the topics that resonate with me? I've been at meetings in the past where people have asked me to make change. They want to put points across the board. And we don't do that. The issue is you actually have to make choices. And the reason that this exercise is so useful and so powerful is that it helps us learn what is important to you, but it also reveals what's important to the community as a whole. So there's this wonderful book, it's called The Wisdom of Crowds, and the basic idea is each of us might think that we're the smartest person in the room because you know what matters to you and what you care about. But I could probably find somebody else in the room who's diametrically opposite to you and says, well, I don't agree with that. I think the community should be doing this. But we put all of this together and take the collective wisdom of everybody. We're actually smarter as a group than we are as individuals. And this book is powerful because it talks about that and the power of crowds. So my question to you is, for those of you who might have peeked earlier, what do you think got the most planning points? Nope.
Roadways?
Nope. Nope. I think I heard it kind of over here. Community facilities was the #1 issue. So I don't have a total yet of exactly how many total points were voted, but it is 3 times higher than anything else on this list. It got, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. 1,880 points, okay? So 1,800 points went into community facilities. What do you think is the next most important topic? No. That's close. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in very close proximity to each other. The next one on the list, it's 665, so it's a third of the points of what we had before, roughly, was water and sewer and other utilities. There's also traffic and circulation at 640, business development at 645 points, and open space at 650 points. So there's 12 topics on this list. I know you're not going to be able to see this from the back of the room, but we'll catch this on the camera later and we'll report this as part of our results of the meeting. And here's what we're going to do for the rest of the meeting. Between now and 8:30, we're going to start talking about the topics that got the most planning points in the room. We're going to try to get through as many topics as we can here tonight, and I want to have you express to us the issues or concerns that caused you to put your planning points in that box. Raise your hand. I will identify you. I'm going to ask you to stand up because standing up opens your diaphragm. Indicate what your concern was or what you think you'd like us to know, and I'm going to repeat that so the rest of the audience can hear. So brevity is important here. Also because brevity is important, if we want to try to get through as much stuff as we can before 8:30, we can't have a 20-minute discussion about something. You may not agree with something that other people have said, but your solution in that situation is to put up your hand and state an alternative viewpoint so that we can record that as we go. I'm going to try to move us through topics. I don't think we're going to get through all 12, but we'll get through as many as we can. As we get close to 8:30, I'll just open the floor up, so if there's something that didn't get a lot of planning points but you still want to talk about, you'll have a chance to talk about that at the end of the meeting. So, our #1 issue overall was community facilities. And so why did people put their planning points in the community facilities box? Oh, sure, everybody put their points in the box. But now nobody wants to fess up and actually admit to it. Yes, sir. Stand up, please.
We need to have a community center that is state-of-the-art. It needs a swimming pool, it needs central air conditioning, and it needs room for more equipment, and it needs to be able to accommodate more people from the town.
Did everybody hear that? Super, thank you very much. That's it? Yes, sir, in the back?
I consider services our Parks and Rec. We need to fix Rule Field, we need to clean up Carmel Pond, we need to bring quality of life back to the town, and that's in our Parks and Rec. I know we don't have the money for it, but I know what needs to be done.
So I don't think we're going to have to repeat that one either. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, over on the side.
I feel that we need to move our schools out of the level 3 status because having a poor school system keeps people from wanting to move to our community. It's going to keep the cost of our houses low, and it's not going to build our community with tax dollars, and businesses aren't going to want to come to a town where people don't want to live.
I have to say this, I thought I was going to have to repeat everything tonight. I think you guys are doing a great job. If at any point during the meeting, if I don't repeat and you didn't hear and you'd like to, just please ask me to repeat. I'm happy to do so, but so far so good. Yes, sir, up in the back. This side's winning, by the way. You guys over here?
Voted that, I put most of my points in that box because of schools. If you own a house here in Oxford, and let's say a house is worth $200,000, okay, the one way to make your house pop and be worth $300,000 or $400,000 really quick is to have great SAT scores and great MCAS scores. That is a fact. You can look this up, you can Google that. House values by MCAS score, house values by SAT scores. How do you get the kids to have better SAT scores and MCAS scores? And that will pop your value. Once you have great house value, everything follows. If you have bad recreation department, it will be pristine, #1 in the state. Look at the other communities, Wellesley, Northborough, Southborough. Everybody else, great MCAS scores. Look that up, Google it. Don't spend your time Googling other things like my favorite guy, Donald Trump. Okay, so, but focus. Sorry. But if we focus on getting that, however it's done, and the planning professionals can get linked with another professional who knows the answer to this. I have some ideas myself, but don't know it. So there's people with very high degrees in this, lots of experience. With the lowest amount of money, how can we get the best MCAS scores and best SAT scores out there? You look at this school, the structure doesn't do it. Okay, I worked for the company that built the school. And it doesn't make great SAT scores, obviously, because you know where ours are, okay? And the MCAS scores. We get some great other schools in Oxford, don't get me wrong, that's for sure. Really great as compared to the other schools I've been to in Northborough, Southborough. All right, the lower level schools, awesome. But I think the middle school and the high school potentially might need some focus.
Well, we'll take a look at that, and I appreciate your point of sort of looking at the investment in terms of the payoff. I mean, who here likes to pay taxes, or who likes to pay more taxes, right? I think everybody, we're going to get your address here so we can set, but I think the issue is a lot of times what we're doing with taxes, we're investing in our community, and the question could be if the payoff or dividend for us is more substantial, it's something that we can look at. You had your hand up over here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so, short story. I moved from New York City here. We chose Oxford because we actually like the small town environment, and we're looking to buy a house. We're in our late 20s, and it's our first house, and we're looking to have a family, and we're not looking in Oxford, mainly because of the school systems where you can go to Woodstock, Connecticut, and buy a $300,000 house and have the great school system, or Franklin. So I think to keep the younger generation in Oxford, that's in Oxford now, that would like to stay in Oxford, that I do agree we have to work on the school system, and also maybe accept Verizon Fios. I know we have charter, but a lot of our generation is a fan of Verizon Fios or some other option other than charter. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, is we need to get our schools better so I can buy a house and stay in Oxford rather than take my up and growing family and go somewhere else, because like I said, my husband and I love Oxford. So that's.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's it? Roads? Roads we'll get to in a minute. That's more of a transportation issue more so. Yes, sir.
So I think that category, community facilities, had all the investment things that we need to have. So you had the community center, the schools, I believe the public services, police and fire was there,
Should be, yep.
right? So all the things that we need to invest so we get our return on investment. I think that's the reason why that was the biggest.
Good? Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Question, does arts and culture fit in this category? Because I had a great speech planned about arts and culture.
Brief comment.
I promise you, if you let me give the whole thing, it'll all be worth it.
Read.
You got 1 minute. You got 1 minute.
I can't do it in 30 seconds.
31 seconds.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we revise our municipal master plan for the first time in 40 years, we're presented with a unique opportunity, an opportunity to decide what direction we want our town to go in, both economically and thematically. As a member of the local cultural council, I take great pride in the artistic and cultural celebrations around Oxford, from the display of heritage in the annual Huguenot picnic to the musical creativity of the summer serenades at the bandstand. But while I am deeply proud of the culture that we already celebrate, I also believe that we have an opportunity to expand on it. I believe an opportunity to incentivize artists to come to our small but beautiful town and inject something new. The next Worcester Art Museum, the next Higgins Armory, the next Goodspeed Opera House. Whatever it may be, if we can get artists to come here and create their products of expression here, then not only will it diversify the culture of our town and expand our population, but it will also allow us to make art a new and central component of our economy. Think about it. If someone decides to create something that expresses either themselves or another culture, he or she will need to buy the supplies and assets to make that dream come true. If there's enough of a market, maybe it'll cause someone to open up a shop in town that provides those supplies. This also opens up another possibility, changing our public education system. We've all been painfully aware of the fact that our public schools haven't been doing financially well, and we continue to be amazed at how well they continue to function despite the large budget cuts in the past couple of years. So I don't think anyone will disagree with the notion that our school system could benefit from a kickstart. While I was proud to vote for a budget that provided great aid to our schools, like funding several field trips and providing the traveling Star Labs exhibit to several classes, I believe we can provide deep reforms to our education focus by incentivizing artistic creation. For one, if we create an artistic economy in town, then instead of having arts and culture be the first thing to go in budget cuts, we can move it against the grain and have our schools be known as an application and artistic-oriented school. That way, our young children can have the tools at their disposal to express themselves and have the opportunity to obtain good-paying jobs right here in Oxford, so they don't have to move to the greater Boston area or even to Worcester to use what they learned in school. They can learn here and still settle down here after education is complete. I don't know how we will do this. I don't have all the answers, and I won't pretend that I do. But if there was ever a better time to put our heads together and figure out that solution together, this is it. We have an opportunity to change our municipality for the better, to create an entirely new sub-economy within Oxford. Elmar, get that, diversify our culture, create good-paying jobs right in town, and greatly reform our education system. How we do it is up to everyone in this room and everyone outside it who wants to progress our town. But I have faith in my neighbors that if we join together, we can make Oxford a driving cultural force in Worcester County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and with that, I yield.
That was actually, that was very good. I think you probably could have done that in about half the time, but it was excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Other thoughts on community facilities? We cover the bases? Bingo. Let's go to topic number 2. So topic number 2 on the list at 665 points was water, sewer, and utilities. So why did that get 665 points? Everybody made a huge mistake. They put... Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
I'd like to see public sewer reach more corners of the town.
Thank you. I'm sorry. The lady indicated she'd like to see sewers extended to more areas of the town. Yep.
Water is one of our most precious resources, and under any circumstances, it should be protected.
Good? Yes, sir?
Came to Oxford after being in Worcester in 1985 when there was amoebas flowing through their water system. And I said, I don't want to have any of that. Millis is dealing with it now. The communities, for whatever reasons, can't seem to handle quality water without chemicals in it or handle human waste without cost being prohibitive. I had to buy an acre of land. I've got a quarter of an acre that's wooded behind my home. And it's there for a purpose because my septic system, which I pump every other year for $200, is in the rear of my home, and my water's in the front of my home. I test my water every year. It doesn't have chlorine, it doesn't have chemicals, it doesn't have fluoride, and I'm very happy with it. I moved to Oxford because I didn't want to live in Worcester. I wanted a rural community where the basics seemed to function well for me. And we've expanded our property footprint to provide for septic and water to be separate. Now we've got, if we decide that we want to bring water and sewer into the community, we've got space that we don't need. In other words, we're going to be paying taxes on this a massive plot plan that we're forced to buy. And then let's not forget about sewer and water hookup. Let's talk about what the cost is, because by law, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have to decommission our wells, and there's a cost, and have to decommission our septic systems. So when we say we want sewer and water, there's a hookup cost and there's the decommission cost. And if the community wants to pay for that and have a fund for that so everybody has the money to do that, then let's go forward with that.
So for those of you, I think you projected very well, thank you very much. The gentleman was saying that he moved to Oxford because of the threats to water supply in other places, and by coming here and the zoning requirements and other things on his lot allowed him to have a well and septic system, and they both function well with each other. And his admonition or warning to the community overall was to be careful about what we do in terms of water and sewer, because it may, in fact, by extending it, may threaten our character. So just, again, be aware of what we're doing and understand the relationship of those things, and I think that's an excellent point. Other things related to water, sewer, other utilities? Yes, sir?
I think water, sewer, and electricity or power source, this community is how it's going to grow. It's also going to pay taxes, which I'm not fond of doing. And as a resident, it also helps with the school systems and all the other things. If you have those three resources, water, sewage, and power supply, you can add to the community by industries, even if it's something as not noisy warehouse environment. You can grow, make this town grow with industry or businesses in particular. It's going to pick up a lot of the tax volume, which is going to add to the school systems. You know, it's nice to have a wish list, but you have to have money for it. The school system needs money. But the only way you're going to generate it is if you have businesses, not taxpayers in this town, overburdened by tax relief. So having said that, if you could look for the future, it's all going to be, whether it's solar, it could be solar in this community. You know, maybe businesses with solar panels, or sewage system reaching out to these factories or businesses. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. The gentleman's point, if you couldn't hear it, was that an investment in water and sewer can actually bring business or industrial development, can strengthen our tax base and make us a stronger community. So it might be an investment that's worthwhile for the community. Yes, sir.
We also have a major gas line running through the town, and it's been extended down to the Webster area. I'd like to see the infrastructure of natural gas be planned or at least looked at to start encompassing communities.
Good point.
Along with that, solar energy. A lot of towns have solar farms that are hooked into the system that are on town property, and it kind of subsidizes some of the utility bills. They are changing street lights to LED lighting now, so it's more cost effective, and along with the solar farms that are on town property, help to subsidize the utilities for the town.
So the gentleman's thoughts overall was that we do have major gas lines running through Oxford. Maybe we could look at extending those to more areas in the community. The possibility of solar farms, and then also looking at green street lighting, LED lights, and other more energy efficient types of approaches in the future, because that actually can be an energy investment for our community as well. Other things related to water, sewer, and utilities, we covered the base there. So next topic, and again, these are all tied together really close to each other. So the next one at 650 points is open space. So why did open space show up as number 3 on our list? You guys are so shy. Thoughts? Yes.
I think it's important to protect the farms and the open space that we do currently have, and in order to do that, Oxford needs to adopt a right to farm community. We need to establish an agricultural commission so that we can protect what we do have left and encourage more of that to come into the town as part of our resources.
Thank you very much. So the comment was about protecting farms as open space, right to farm, establishing an agricultural commission to address these kinds of situations. Yep.
I'd like to concur with the gentlelady who spoke earlier. Both of my parents grew up on farms in Worcester County, so we all love farms, and I absolutely agree that's something we should be protecting.
Thank you very much. So a gentleman concurred with the recommendation about preserving farms. Other thoughts on open space?
Yes.
I think open space is something that is not missed until it's gone. My first point. The second point is the town needs to look at how it taxes open space.
That open space is the type of thing that well, let me back up. It's important for us as a community to think about how we define open space. Because there's several streets that we could drive down in Oxford today and we say, isn't this beautiful? Look at all this open space. And in fact, it's maybe not open space. Maybe it's privately owned property that somebody's going to develop at some time in the future. So what was pointed out is you don't realize it's not open space until it's developed. So making a positive plan, and this is one of the values or benefits of the planning process, is to really look at what we think we might want to achieve in terms of open space, what we think we might be able to afford in terms of open space, and decide whether or not that's something for us to try to approach or address in the future. The other comment was about taxing open space. What did you mean by that?
What I mean by that is when you look at a parcel of land, you need to look at it as what it is, open space. Without a development plan in the works, it's not a development.
Okay, I'm with you. Thank you very much for that clarification. So what we're talking about here is that there's privately owned land. Generally speaking, land is assessed at its market value, and that's so that everybody's land is assessed fairly equally and we share the tax burden fairly equally amongst ourselves. The challenge can be that undeveloped land has development value and it can be worth quite a bit of money, which makes it harder to own it. So Massachusetts has what's called Chapter 61, which allows for land to be taxed at a lower assessment and makes it easier for people to keep it as open space. And I think the recommendation here is we take a look at how we do that to make sure that we have good programs in place. Yes, sir.
One thought with open space. When you look at what the value, the tax value of the open space is, you need to realize what the real estate taxes would have been on that open space. Take that dollar amount and look at all the people that happen to front or border that open space, that have the view of it, the enjoyment of it, that are abutters. And then what a lot of communities have done, they assess all the abutters for the dollar amount that they took out of the real estate tax base, because the more you take out of the real estate tax base, the more you have to make up. And what they've done is all the people that live next to that golf course or that Buffinville Lake or that Buffinville Pond or whatever we have or enjoy, they pay more for their real estate tax bill than the person that doesn't. But they assess that, they track that. They've done it up in New Hampshire, they've done it in other communities, so they don't lose sight of what the value of what they've taken out of the real estate tax base is and continues to be, and they assess everybody a surcharge, if you will, on the real estate tax bill, the abutters. And if you want to think that way, then you're fine. Then you don't hurt yourself financially.
Yes, sir?
You know, I've heard the open space debate before, where people say, well, gee, if it's open space, we take it off the tax records. Well, in Charlton, there was a 61A piece that came up during the recession, the first recession, 2000. And the town could have bought it for $200,000. And when it went to the town meeting, I heard the town father say, no, we're going to lose taxes. Well, so it gets sold, they got a bunch of houses, and maybe they gained $200,000 in taxes, but with 40 school children at $10,000 each, they were losing $200,000 a year. So if you do some planning and these things come up, you can look at that and say, hey, look, you know, do we want to expand the school, contribute more to the school budget for an influx of people, or do we want to leave it open? So that has to, you know, you have to have a policy in place for when these opportunities arise.
So I think some of the topics we're going to be looking at as part of the plan are sort of fiscal issues in the community and how those affect us, open space, community character, and I think the issue that the gentleman raises is often what's called fiscal impact. And the question is, what do different land uses pay in tax revenue? What actually do they receive in services? And so which ones are net tax gain to the community and which one perhaps cost more in services than they pay in taxes? And I think sometimes you can look at this on an investment basis and say, purchasing a property may sound like a lot of money, but in fact, it could be paying itself off over time. So the story goes, apparently, when European settlers came to America, the island of Manhattan was purchased for $24, right? You say to yourself, look. All right. $48 and a couple blankets. But the bottom line, the point that I wanted to make out of the story was not necessarily the exact dollar amount, but that over time, if a community is going to be here for hundreds of years, our payback period is very different than each of us might make as individuals. And so if it enhances our quality of life, or I think as the gentleman had said earlier, if a small investment from each of us can improve property values for all of us, that might be a prudent thing for us to do. And this is one of the things the plan can consider and look at in these types of situations. Other thoughts related to open space? Yes?
I mean, it's one thing to call it an open space, and it's another thing to call it an ecosystem. We can talk about the dollar value of land, but what's really difficult to quantify is the impact it has on native flora and fauna. I'm a science nerd. I don't know if any of you noticed, and I have to tell you, North Oxford has some excellent birds. And it's got excellent birds because it has excellent open space where they can live. And it is important to value land for what it does and what it could be. But a lot of that's difficult to track. So one thing we could look at doing is offering tax incentives for people replacing their lawns with native butterfly habitat. We could look at offering tax incentives for people pulling their gray water out of local sewers and putting it into gray water reclamation programs. Like that goes into the right to farm comment. Everything is connected to open space.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Yes.
I agree with this gentleman 100%. The road area that I live in, I have open space, and for 30 years I've been watching the deer even Fox. I've been watching the birds, just like he says, and there's nothing more beautiful. And unfortunately, up on our road, they're starting to clear some of that open space, and we're losing all our beautiful wildlife.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts on open space? Yes, sir?
Is there a map already at the town hall that has the Oxford map with planned open space versus what is private open space? And then that could be
So, at this point in time in the process, we're very of preparing elements of the master plan, but the steering committee asked for a map atlas. And so what we've started to do is prepare preliminary maps that start to identify things that we think are important for us to look at. So if you go to the town website and search for the master plan update, we're preparing booklets as we go through the process, and you can find these booklets there at any point over the next 6 months or a year or so, and please encourage you to do that. And right now, booklet number 3, I believe, in the sequence, booklet number 1 is an overview of what planning is all about. Booklet number 2 was a discussion booklet, or a little homework, if you will, for the steering committee in terms of their priorities. Booklet number 3 is this map atlas. And in there is a map of what we're starting to categorize as open space of different types. And so we're going to be modifying these maps as we go. So all the maps in there right now are marked as draft, because we've already found some issues or problems on each of those maps. But you can keep up to date with what's going on by looking there. And if you see things that you know that you'd like us to know, you can communicate back to us. So the maps will be getting better and better as we go through the process. Yes, sir.
What the map you're referring to, the town has a lot of land that it owns through defaulted taxes. At the end of Levitt Road, Bug Swamp, there's a lot of different natural open spaces already that's on the town's books. Maybe should be some coordination on land they don't want versus land they do want, a little swapping back and forth, putting stuff up for sale, trading, so they have the concentration and they have part of this master plan. We have in the end result, we get what we want. I know that, Sacarapa Pond, down in that area, the town owns a lot of land, acres and acres, hundreds of acres of land in there that's not buildable, wetlands, but it's open space. And there's other areas throughout the whole community. But so there's a lot of land that the town actually owns that's not being productive that maybe we could put on the books and do something with.
So what the gentleman was talking about is that there's a lot of town-owned land which isn't necessarily categorized as open space. So there's another map in this map atlas that shows the location of town-owned properties, and we're actually going through those to figure out which one of these, what sort of purposes do they serve, which ones might be extraneous or not relevant to the municipality's needs, and could we in fact do more in terms of open space with that? So excellent comment, thank you. Yes, sir.
I have a question, if anything. Is open space considered our parks, like Rule Field, Greenbrier?
Yeah, yes and no, in the sense that open space for community planning purposes could be a whole wide variety of things. So parks and recreation areas serve open space functions, but it's not the only kind of open space. So we're going to probably cast a wide net and talk about what we think our priorities should be in different parts of that. And if a recreation area, Greenbrier for example, it might show up as part of our community facilities discussion because the gentleman had talked earlier about park and recreation fields and et cetera. So we don't exactly know how it's going to shape up, but it's a type of thing that falls into both categories.
The reason I brought it up is going for the master plan. I'm thinking athletics in the town. Facilitate the parks that we have, to increase our athletic departments, get different sports going into town. I think that's something that also brings people into town and also keeps people in town.
Yep. Thank you very much. Anything else in terms of open space? Yep.
I just wanted to say that as a parent of 3 children, I agree with him as far as the recreation. We have a great facility in our town that other towns come to use. It's a soccer academy. And our town recreation is an embarrassment not only for soccer, but for softball as well. We don't have benches for softball leagues. We have them for the baseball. We don't have bathrooms. The fields are atrocious and a mess. So as much as I No, it shouldn't be a top priority, it should be looked at because the education, in my opinion, is the most important, but if we want to attract people to this town, it would be good to put some effort into recreation.
Yep, that's an excellent point. Thank you very much. But this is, again, the type of thing like SARIs. These types of little things all actually work together and contribute. So if we can address small things like that that can't be expensive, or even donations of time or materials, we can take care of a lot of these things ourselves without tax dollars. These are things we can or should focus on. Moving on from open space, that was 6:45. Now the next topic that came up was business development. So one of the top 5 topics. Why did you put your planning points in there? Yes, sir?
Town needs to review their bylaws, their rules and functions to make the town more appreciative of business, so that people will come here to establish their businesses, which will raise taxes, which will pay for all this stuff. Some of the rules that we have tend to have somebody go to a different town.
Excellent, thank you very much.
I think there's sometimes a myth that if we grow business, we can solve all of our problems. But I think we've made some mistakes in the past. I don't know if it was a good idea to give big tax breaks to one business versus another business because we want to bring them in with the idea that, oh, everyone in town is going to get jobs because we have this new business. Well, I don't know if that's always the case. Sometimes it's people from other towns that are getting the jobs for the business in town. So I'm just concerned about being so gung-ho with growing business that we give big tax breaks, and we're kind of giving welfare to businesses.
I think we need more businesses that are local, that a lot of our youth can go to. Like I know we were talking about like the community center, but a lot of other towns, a lot of kids are into magic or comic books or video games, and maybe if we have someone that can open a business that's local, that all the teens can go to, but maybe have music and get more into the art, I think that should be our focus rather than these big companies so we can give tax breaks to. But as long as we kind of create that community development within our business in the town, then maybe we can kind of build off of that.
Case study about a town losing business is the town of Southbridge. Almost 50 years ago, I went to the Catholic school in Southbridge, even though I lived in Oxford. It was a model community. A home in Southbridge at the time cost more than a home in Southborough at the same time. The American Optical Company lost its fastball. It got bought out. No money was put in research and development, and the technology changed. Look at Southbridge today. I'm the guy that brought IPG to town. I own that land, okay? When IPG came to town, you gave them a tax break. But guess what? They spent $800,000 bringing the water line in. They improved the electrical service down there for another $300,000. Because of their buildings, the gas company ran a gas line down there. And then they leveraged a $2.6 million grant to bring the sewer from Webster through Dudley into that part of Oxford. Right. And plus the fact they got a tax break, but I think last year they spent over $600,000. They paid between personal property taxes, real estate taxes, excise taxes, approximately $600,000 to the town. Where would your budget be without that? Because they came to town, they made the investment. You have Wilson with 200 employees. You have Fabrico that retained employees in town with 200. And IPG is approaching about 1,300 employees. I mean, every town in Worcester County would die to get that opportunity, but that's how it happened. It happened with a tip. When we walked into the town hall, no one said, you got to do this, you got to do this. How can we help you? And that's how the deal got put together. So it wasn't as much money as hey, just a friendly face that says, okay, how can we make this work?
I think as part of the planning process, there's 3 key parts of business development that we're going to want to be taking a look at. So there's some people who think that business development is important because of the employment it provides, and that's so people can have jobs and earn incomes to, be part of the community. So jobs or employment are important. There's a second issue, which is goods and services. Do we have goods and services available for residents, the things that we need to buy, or do we have to travel? There's some communities around the country that they have to drive 30 miles to buy the things that they might need on a daily basis. Are needs being met here? And then the third thing to think about too is also our tax base, and whether or not making investments in terms of tax incentives actually gets somebody into the community who's going to be here paying taxes hopefully for years or decades or centuries even or whatever. So these are important issues, and I think the fact that business development ended up, I think, number 4 on our list means it's something that we're going to take a close look at as part of the planning process or effort. Was there a gentleman in the far back? No? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with respect to business development, we need to fix our zoning. Oxford has some of the worst zoning I've seen with respect to commercial and residential space.
Comment is we need to fix our zoning? Was there another comment? Yeah? No?
One of the fixes on zoning is enforcement. I think there's a little lack of enforcement in some of the areas. I mean, I drive by, I go down Charlton Street and I look at I won't mention who, but I know who, and it's an eyesore. And he's got commercial equipment in there. You're allowed so many registered vehicles on your property. There is a law on the books, but that seems to be totally ignored and not enforced. So, I mean, we have laws that if we have laws and if you don't enforce them, what good are they?
Other thoughts in terms of business development? Yes, ma'am?
I do think that we should be bringing in some businesses. I grew up on Westboro, and again, at that time, it was a small town. Take a look at Auburn. We do need some businesses, maybe retailers, but within reason, so that we don't lose our personalities.
Yes, sir?
I just wanted to say that it's great that we have Market Basket, we probably have a grocery store. We have a Home Depot, if you want, go down towards North Oxford to Walmart. Those are all great businesses, they employ many people. I think we need more businesses, but if we're going to reach out to companies or businesses that come to Oxford, what we should do is look at the surrounding towns. What do they already have that we could drive to that's not so far away? For example, you got Dollar Tree over here down by Market Basket. You got a Dollar Tree about maybe less than 10 miles down the road into Webster. So you want to bring in different businesses that is going to attract people into the town. But then we're probably going to have an issue with traffic, so that's another topic for another time. But I do think that businesses will help us with our tax base. I hear so much. I go to all the town meetings when it's budget time, and I know they're saying the town meeting tonight. I thank you guys for having this meeting tonight because it's very important how we want the future of Oxford to be. I used to live in Worcester. I moved here in '94, my wife and I. And I've been watching some of the neighborhoods deteriorate around me for lack of revenue. People don't have the money to put a roof on. They don't have the money to do their home repairs because they're so tied up with the cost of living and everything else. They're just paying their mortgages and getting by. So we need all these great things that we talk about tonight. It's great. We need better schools. We need better roadways. But we don't really have to worry about how can we get the revenue other than raising property taxes. So many people don't keep telling me, I'm going to move, taxes keep going up. And I keep telling people, just vote, get involved in your town because it's important. And that's what we're doing here tonight. But I'm in favor of businesses coming in.
Thank you very much. Anything else in terms of business development, or are we going to let this gentleman, he had a segue there to transportation. Did you catch that? I don't know if he was thinking ahead. There you go. Good. Break the chain. Go for it.